Hey, I'm Vieira, and yeah, a couple of videos back, I'd uploaded a video talking about how I did buy a Leica M3, and I've been shooting with that. And as much as I love my Leica M6, man, I just kept hearing so many good things about this camera, right? So I wanted to check it out, so I did. Um, but also in that video, I talked about how I would put together a video going over the features of each camera, doing comparisons, talking about the differences between the Leica M3 and M6. And that's what this video is. So I want to start with a clip that kind of just goes over the features of each camera and talks a little bit about the differences. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the M3 and we'll look at the features starting on the front of the camera. Here you've got your viewfinder window. This window illuminates the frame lines and your rangefinder badge. This little lever down here, this is a frame lines preview lever, and it can just give you an idea of what your framing might be like if you were using a different lens or a different focal length. Here's your self timer. It's cool that the M3 has. You won't find it on the M6, but the M3 does have a self timer. Your lens release button, and your rewind release lever. So if you want to rewind your film on your M3, you would just push this lever over and then pull the rewind out, and this is how you would rewind the film. Push that back down. Now this is one big difference of the M3 and the M6. I think both of them are great methods, but I'll show you the M6 in a minute. You got your cold shoe, and basically just your shutter speed dial, your film advance lever, and your automatic frame counter, and the shutter button. On the back of the camera, you've got two sync ports. Now the one on the left is just a standard sync port. I'm not exactly sure what the one on the right does. I think it probably goes to a kind of different lighting system that they used to use back in the day, but I can't say for sure. So you might find that somewhere else. You do have an ISO or ASA dial, but this actually adds no functionality to the camera. It basically just reminds you what kind of film you've got in your camera, what speed you're shooting that film at. Just kind of a reminder. Yeah. I've got your viewfinder up here. Now this, the outer ring of this viewfinder, it's made of metal. So if you wear glasses, that can kind of be an issue. I do wear glasses when I shoot with this. I just kind of hold the camera a little bit away from the glasses so I don't scratch the lens. So not a big deal. So on the bottom of the camera, this is where you would remove your base plate. And you'll need to remove the base plate because this is where you're going to load your film. Now this is something that's kind of a significant difference between the M3 and the M6. With the M3, you've got your take-up spool, which actually you remove from the camera. You pull this out, you thread your film into this, and you make sure it's got a good grip. And then you put both the roll of film and the take-up spool into the camera and just advance the film a couple times, and you're pretty much good to go. You just put your base plate back on, and you can see there's the tripod thread as well. Okay, that's your trusty M3. All right, the shiny M6. Okay, you see on the across the top, you pretty much got the same window setup, and then you've got the on this side the same frame lines preview lever. But over on the other side, no self timer, right? Only on the M3, not on the M6. No self timer. But you do have a compartment for your batteries to power the light meter, and that's a significant difference because the M6 does have a built-in light meter. And if you get a lens release button, and when you're ready to rewind your film, you've got the rewind release lever. Right? You just push that over. Now this is a little bit different. You pull this lever out, and this is much faster. The M6 has a much faster setup to be able to rewind your film. The M3 is slower, right? And a lot of people really like the M6 because of that. To me, both systems work great, and it wouldn't be an issue for me buying either camera. You got your hot shoe here, and this is not TTL. You've got TTL light metering, but it's not TTL control for your flash. It's just center pin firing, so you can use any flash that works with that. I've used my Canon 580EX2s on there. I haven't really used it, but I just tested it out and works great. So that's cool. Over here you've got your shutter speed dial, your film advance lever, your frame counter, and your shutter button. So if we look on the back of the camera, here we've got one regular sync port, and on this camera you do have a functional ISO dial. Now that's very cool because you do really have a built-in light mirror in this camera. So you would set the ISO to whatever film speed you were shooting, or if you were pushing or pulling film. And now the light meter arrows in the viewfinder will respond accordingly based upon the ISO that you set. Here I've set the ISO to 400 because I'm usually shooting Fuji Acros pushed to 400. Now here's the viewfinder, and you'll see the little circle on the outside. This is more of a plastic rubbery kind of surface. So it's not such a hard surface against your lenses. Very cool. So looking at the bottom of the camera, you remove the base plate the exact same way as the M3. But now this is different. With the M3, you had a removable take-up spool, right? You would pull it out. With this one, you've just got 3 prongs in there, and those are not removable. This is actually kind of a quicker way to load film, and a lot of people really love this method. Because what you would do is you just put your roll of film in with a little bit of film across, you thread your film through those 3 prongs and line it up on the gears there, and then just advance the film a couple times, and you're pretty much good to go. Just put the base plate back on, and again you can see you got the same tripod thread over there on the left side. Alright, now another big difference between these two cameras is my M6 is a single stroke. So you advance the lever all the way around just once and take your shot. Okay, now for my M3. Now they did make M3s that were single stroke, but that didn't start until 1958, I think. This camera was built in 1957, and so it was still a double stroke, which is basically rather than just one long stroke with the film advance, you would use 2 short strokes and then take your shot. This looks kind of awkward from this angle, but when I'm actually holding the camera right and using my thumb, it's easier because you don't have to move your fingers or your thumb all the way around to the front and back. So the double stroke actually makes it a shorter method. But again, man, not a deal breaker. Both cameras are great. Both cameras are very fun to shoot with. And these are the main details and differences of the M3 and the M6. So another significant difference between these two cameras that I want to tell you about, it's in the viewfinder. The viewfinder on an M3 uses a 0.91 magnification. On an M6, you've got a 0.72 magnification. Right? What that means in practical terms is that when you look through the viewfinder of your M3, man, everything's closer, bigger. You know, the rangefinder patch is bigger. So a little bit easier focusing. And if you're shooting, you know, if you really want to shoot with 50mm lens, this is the perfect camera for that. Because the frame lines for a 50mm lens take up the entire window of the viewfinder. Now you could go wider. You could shoot wider, like throw a 35 on here, but you would need accessories to be able to do that. Now for the M6, if you wanted to shoot with an M6 and a 35mm lens, no problem. The frame lines are there. It's all built in. You don't need any kind of adapter or accessories or anything like that. So that might be something you might want to consider between these two cameras. But other than that, man, just beautiful. Both these cameras, you know, you can't go wrong. You know, so the thing would be to consider, again, do you want double stroke, single stroke? Do you want a light meter? That's an important question, right? And do you want to shoot wider than 50mm? Right? So those are some things to consider. You know, I went out shooting last week for a couple days, And man, I was getting kind of bored doing the street photography thing, and even the night stuff. Sometimes you just need to break out and shoot something different. So I live here in Vegas. I went out a little past Red Rock Canyon, did some shooting out there, and I'm not a landscape photographer. I really don't consider myself a landscape photographer. I don't even really pay that much attention to landscape photography. But I mean, there are guys out there like Salgado or, that are just magicians with that stuff. So much respect, but it's just not normally what would consider shooting. But I needed to mix things up. I needed to shoot something different. So I did go out to Red Rock and did some shooting around the desert and stuff like that. And I had done that before, but it was about 9 years ago, and that was on digital, right? And I wanted to go out and shoot this stuff on film and see see if that would kind of like excite me a little bit more. So I'll show you some of these shots. This is not a, a shootout between the M3 and the M6 because you got the same film, Summicron lenses. The cameras aren't going to give you different images, all right? So just want to get that up front. This is not a shootout between these two cameras. Actually, I think only one of the shots is from the M3. But I'll show you those images here. So this is Fuji Acros 100, pushed to 400. And man, I love the way these landscapes look on film. This location, it's a little bit further out than Red Rock. If you've ever been out this way, this is a little further past that. This location, this is back where the rocks are actually red. So if these shots were in color, those rocks would be red. But I love the way these landscapes look on film because, man, they could have been shot 50 years ago or, just last week. So I do apologize. This video went a little bit longer than I expected. I did want to show you some shots because I don't like doing a video and not at least showing you some of the work that I'm working on with this gear. Man, these cameras, the M3 and the M6. If I had to choose one, if I could only have one of these bodies, I would probably have to go with the M6. And my reason is because being able to just throw a 35mm frame or lens on there, that's pretty important. It's nice to have that option. Even though I do shoot more with 50, I do like that focal length. But and plus the light meter. When I'm shooting Sunny 16 with this, I'm pretty much nailing the exposure. I might be one stop off or half a stop, but it's really not as hard as people think it is. So that's not really a problem, but shooting at night and stuff like that, man, sometimes it can get tricky. Or you're just in kind of a weird lighting situation. Light meter on the M6 is awesome. It's accurate. So if I could only have one, it would probably be the M6. But this one, the M3, is so much fun to shoot with. I do like the double stroke better. And I kind of like not having a light meter because there's nothing about this camera telling me what to do. I'm controlling the whole exposure experience, right? Okay, anyway, hope you liked the information, the photos. I'm Ted Vieira. I will see you in the next video. Thanks.